Well, the nuts got their asking price and have already moved to California. Barb Schwartz started her business in the Seattle area 30 years ago, and she says she's the one who coined the phrase.
Seattle, Washington, 2010. Dan White signs off for his nightly newscast, but little did he know it would be the last time. The next day, Dan was scheduled to host the 6 o'clock news, but he never showed. Missing 2 more consecutive days of work, his coworkers were put on notice. After another week, the Seattle Police Department had officially announced that Dan White was missing, and after a month later, he would be declared dead. After conducting an initial investigation, the Seattle Police Department were able to come up with one prime suspect. Thomas Michael was seen moving into an apartment 2 weeks before the last appearance of Dan White. And after reaching out to KOMO for a potential internship and turned down, he legally changed his name to Van Gray. And 3 days after he legally changed his name, Dan White went missing.
I'd always looked up to Dan White, saw him as a role model. So when I was sort of establishing myself in the business, I thought that would be a great place to look. Well, I was moving to a new area. I thought that I needed a fresh start. I was reinventing who I was, and I thought that people calling me something different would help reinforce that for me.
When asked about the similarities between his legal name change and Dan White, he said,
"No comment."
After speaking with Thomas's family, the Seattle Police Department gained a lot of interest in this prime suspect, after he was apparently obsessed with news anchors growing up.
Oh, he was always just enamored with the television. We had to pry him away from the evening news in order to eat dinner. It was his passion. Now, I didn't really see that as a job per se, but I was willing to support my son in whatever he wanted to do. So we sort of pushed him towards college, but after that, didn't necessarily work out for him. So I think he's following his dream and he's doing what's best for him.
Good evening, I'm Amber Schatz.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Thanks for joining us tonight. A Christmas tree lights up Main Street, Minot, enticing shoppers with sparkly and special incentives downtown.
3 years after the Seattle incident, Thomas was seen panhandling in Bismarck, North Dakota, just 5 minutes south of KXMB, where anchor Ron Burgundy was finishing up the evening news. 2 days after that first encounter, county records show that Thomas legally changed his name to Don Turquoise. And just 3 days after that, Ron Burgundy was found dead in his apartment.
Amazing guy, I gotta tell ya. I met him when I was walking down the street one day. I just gotta say, seeing him turn the world around, brought the color back.
When questioned about the name change to Don Turquoise, he said the following.
Well, if I'm being honest, it was inspired by Mr. Burgundy. A strong color mixed with a good, solid name. I mean, what kind of name is Van? Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking.
Home presented by Gallery Furniture will go to a very deserving family, and let's go back a lot.
Houston, 2017. Jennifer Braun, anchor at KPRC, goes missing after a night out on the town.
She went missing? So Jennifer, she was stunning, honestly. And, I was sort of going to be going back towards focusing on my career. And I wanted somebody who shared my interests, to sort of spend my life with me. So I started dating around in the news business. And Jennifer, she was gorgeous. She was smart. She was doing what I wanted to do. She'd be the perfect person to spend my life with. And that stood me up on our second date. And I thought she was gone for good. She never texted me back, never left a message, not even once.
Jennifer's friends reported her having no active love interests at the time and had not been on a date in several months before she went missing. They all reported seeing a man in what appeared to be a gray turtleneck follow her around and stalk her the week before her disappearance.
I mean, I admit it might have been a little weird to call it a second date. She seemed to freak out a little bit about that, seeing as how it was really only the first time I'd ever talked to her. But, that's the semantics.
Good evening and happy Thanksgiving. Barbara Lee Edwards is off tonight, but thank you for joining us. Between holiday travel...
San Diego, California, 2020. Mark Stevens, reporter and anchor for CBS 8, goes MIA after interviewing local citizens about Worker Safety Awareness Week. He was last seen talking to a construction worker in downtown San Diego.
I took little jobs all over the country. Eventually I ended up in San Diego working construction, and I found it's not the most glamorous thing, but I found that the flexible hours and the very few questions that people ask sort of suited my lifestyle very well. All right, now Mark Stevens is a complicated guy, all right? He gave me a chance. I didn't see it at the time, but he gave me a chance. I'd given up on my dream of making it onto the air, you know? So many failures, one after the other, that I just I lost my way, and he showed me the light. I didn't see it at the time. I thought he was doing me a disservice, flaunting his skill in my face, but I've learned to love the memory of him.
San Diego officials reported getting a request from an individual named Don Turquoise to legally change his name to Clark Stevens, just 2 days after Thomas was allegedly interviewed by Mark on a construction site.
At the time, I very much did not like what he did, so I took on his name in sort of a parody fashion, you know? I did it intentionally to make him mad. Best $50 I ever spent.
Welcome back to The Word. I'm your host, Max Dutton, reporting for the Baker Orange. On this week's episode, we'll take an in-depth look...
Baldwin City, Kansas, 2021. Max Dutton, after being interviewed on a fake TV show hosted by the now-named Jeff Dutton, disappears shortly after, never to be seen again.
Well, I'd like to say that I certainly had some involvement with one Max Dutton. I'd like to think that we were friends, but any other accusations along the lines of me being involved in his brutal murder, now that's wrong.
After the discovery of Max Dutton's body, the Baldwin City Police Department reported that several locals said they saw a strange man who appeared to be wearing a gray turtleneck follow Max Dutton into his studio the night he was murdered.
I think that that's a very common description that people would give of anybody that they couldn't see in the best of lighting conditions, which, you know, his studio is centered in kind of a strange location. Streetlights aren't always on that well. It's sort of it'd be hard to tell somebody in that sort of... No comment.
Maxwell's twin brother, Matthew Dutton, seemed to second the initial police reports of a strange man following Max.
Every time I went out with him, I had a really eerie feeling that something was up. You know, I could tell someone was watching him from afar, but I couldn't really put my tongue on it. But obviously someone was, and that person killed him.
Feeling the walls closing around him and the clues adding up, Thomas got more and more on edge as we continued to pound him with questions about what happened to those innocent broadcasters.
So where were you at that Wednesday night?
I was going through my nightly routine, you know. I was sort of just driving around town, going and seeing the sights, you know. I usually have a specific route. I'm a creature of habit, could be said. And that's when I saw him. I got tired early and I went to bed.
Max Dutton's attorney reported that he had scheduled a meeting to be interviewed by Thomas for a TV show that does not exist.
And it says here that the Baldwin City Police Department has confiscated that episode's tape and have used that as evidence in the case, and that Max denied wanting to be your friend. How did that make you feel?
Well, I have a personal copy of that tape, and it's slightly different than the one that they might show you. But I don't think there was any animosity between us. I think that we shared a sort of an understanding beneath the surface. I wanted to ask a more personal question. Like, we're friends, right? We can hang out after.
Yes, I would love to spend time with you. You are my favorite human being.
let's move to Europe and spend our lives together.
So what drove you to go on a murderous rampage over the last 10 years, killing all these broadcasters? And how were you able to go from city to city, avoiding all law enforcement without getting caught?
There's no correlation there. You can't prove anything. Actually,